Are you ready for the meltdown? Conflusion of different ideas and concepts. Hopefully this will be well. Let's start your sales journey. What do you think? Do you like that? Give you a head start in your sales journey.
It's hard to hear over the thing. I think you need to come closer to the mic during that, and also a bit more voice of God, if you could.
The voice of God.
All right, Darth Vader.
All right, guys, welcome, bienvenue. Welcome once again to our newly rebranded Sales Meltdown, where David Treacle-Chernick and myself, Gareth of the Many Hats, will be talking to you about common issues that are within sales. And today is no different. Today's topic is all about what is the perfect proposal layout. I can't even say it. The PPL, the perfect proposal layout.
People don't spend very much time on proposals, or when they do, they spend too much time but do it wrong.
Well, that's a broad brush statement there. They all do it wrong?
Well, it's kind of the same all as all presentations are bad. Yeah, it's not that all presentations are bad. Some are good.
I would venture to say most.
There you go. The vast majority. Okay, so, and I think it's very similar with proposals. That's not to say that some of those bad proposals don't win, in the same way that bad presentations don't not get what you're after all the time, which sort of begs the question, well, what else could make a proposal good? What is it? What are the signs that a proposal is good? And ultimately, it's that they win deals, right? That's all they're there for.
Well, yeah, I think it's usually there's too much emphasis that the proposal is going to be the thing that sews everything up. I think, in my mind, that by the time you send a proposal, they should already be in the right position. They all should already be thinking positively, and all this does is to cap it, is to say, well, you've thought of all this before, but here it is laid out in black and white, ready, so that you can be reassured that there shouldn't be a surprise in there. I think if your proposal changes people's minds, then you've not done the good work beforehand. There shouldn't be any.
Okay, yeah, that is certainly a point. There are a lot of different types of proposals in people's minds. I mean, they are all one thing. They're a document, right, that has written down all of the sales process really to date. A confirmation in writing that you understand the brief, that you know what the problem is, that you've written down word for word after they told you what it was, all that kind of jazz, right?
On top of that, it's saying, so that's the first bit. That's the bit that says, I understand what the hell it is you want, or what you're after. The second bit, where you say, and this is what we're going to do, and this is towards to gain this result, and perhaps even over this time period. What worries me is sometimes I've seen this myself. They send you a proposal. It's a different solution to the one you were talking about, or it's 4 or 5 steps beyond where you last discussed. So,
or it just looks different to what you were expecting it to be. And I've specifically talked here about not the perfect proposal, but the perfect proposal layout. How is it gonna look? Yeah, how is it gonna be laid out? And really, we've sort of just about touched on it. Proposals is a whole area where if people improved their competencies in the various parts of it, they would do a whole lot better. But yet there are different stages during the sale where people will ask for or be willing to see a proposal. And of course, the content will vary depending on where you are at that point. But in terms of the layout itself, we talked in the past about how much time and effort and money and resource and investment people make in their sales. and whether they are commensurate with things like the overall value of the sale if you win, the estimated order value, and your probability of winning it. Yeah, and we talked there about qualifying. And qualifying is important.
Qualifying being everything, really.
Right. So qualifying is really, really important when it comes to deciding how much effort you're going to put into any kind of sale, and specifically at the proposal book, because it can be time consuming. But I think people need to understand that they need to be dedicating some time to this, some effort.
Right.
Because you want to end up with a document that encapsulates the conversation so far, that leads to a potential agreement, that might preempt objections, and that includes some of the details of what you're selling. It's a contract. Ultimately, it's the beginning of the contract. And if we start seeing it as the beginning of our contractual relationship, that, if they saw that proposal, they should be able to just sign it. And there you go. That's right. I agree. Do it. Yeah. Give me it. Whatever it is that's written in there.
But it should not be telling anything they haven't already been privy to. And there should be no surprise in it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know how I feel, and people that watch this know that should, I find like a very triggering kind of word. But I mean, there are many instances, especially with big tenders, where you will be given limited information and you have to conjure that into a proposal. I mean, that is part proposal and part free consultancy. Yeah, we've got.
Yeah, well, I always find that deeply suspect. But yeah,
I know, but it's part and parcel if you want to be doing major sales quite often. Big corporate enterprise, multi-million-dollar, or less $100,000 deals.
Am I right in thinking that by the time you hit a proposal, you probably have had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 interactions with them, often meetings, sometimes telephone calls, maybe discussions with teams.
Could have done for the type of stuff that you've been selling. There are different things that get sold. That will follow perhaps a slightly different path, that might, involve fewer meetings. In a formal tender process, you're quite often locked out of having conversations once the tender has been announced, which does mean that, yeah, you're always going to be kicking yourself. Oh, why didn't we go in there earlier and have a conversation when we could, and blah, 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 blah. But, it is what it is. And a lot of people find themselves writing proposals at that point. But I want to give some tips as to the layout. I just want to spell out why layout is so important in a proposal.
All right.
So, of course, the layout needs to be able to incorporate all of the content that we need to get across. And we've talked before about no fluff, just spell it out what the content is. The content being all of the questions, answers to all the questions that they have asked, plus in an order, right? And the order beginning obviously with some sort of summary, a prologue, an executive summary, some people call it, that encapsulates everything, including the price and everything.
And this is where you're regurgitating what they originally said to you in the first place, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, well, it's correct. Now, the rest of the proposal, if you can lay it out in the order of the sales process, which will always begin with an acknowledgement, as I say, written word for word if possible, but an acknowledgement of the issues that they face, their environment, what is causing them to be having all of these sleepless nights. An acknowledgement also written down of what they perceive to be the overriding problems that are stopping them getting to where they want to be, or if they are more goal oriented for this particular proposal, what their aspirations are, what they're really trying to achieve, and why it's so important to them. Then an outline of, as they described, the ideal solution, using their language. What specifically do they want? Followed by, the value. You could say pricing, but I would say pricing is not really value. The value is really what having this solution will do for them. Once you've done that, in your sort of opening gambit, and got them nodding as they're recounting all of those conversations and stuff that they've written down in their invitation to tender, and they're hearing their words back. Wow, these people have got it. That's true, and they really understand me. They'll be then much more open to reading the rest of it.
Well,
The rest of it,
if they recognize their own words and they recognize the truth that they were after there, that as stated the way in which they stated it, they're far more likely to go with whatever your next.
correct. Which, as you pointed out, should be no surprise. Yeah, because really the solution.
I think that's the biggest problem you find with these things is that people can almost use it as a way of holding people to ransom almost.
Yeah, correct. And that's the opposite of what we want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so and then you are basically going through a tick list, all right, in the plan part of the sales process. Once they have said yes, okay, fine. If you've got such a thing, then that would be brilliant. Yeah, because that would help me do all of this stuff. So and that's where we've got this tick list, and it's a tick list that you can order in any way you want. Frankly, you just got to tick those boxes. Have you told them what's going to be involved in becoming a client? Have you given them the terms and conditions? Have you answered all their questions? Are there some specifications that they need drawings of, or charts, or whatever it is, all laid out in a very easy to understand way, so they can tick a box and say, yep, they got that. Yep, they got that. Yep, they got that. Right? Price. Yep, they've got that. And they'll be able to score each one of those. Sometimes in a professional procurement environment, if you're dealing with a big corporate and they have a buying department, they will be quite sophisticated in checking all of these things, scoring all of those answers. Okay, so that is really how you lay it out. Plus, I would always encourage people in the sort of with the ethos of looking at this as the beginning of your contract, to think, is there a place on the back page where I can sign? I mean, not necessarily physically, although I've seen it done and I've done it myself, put a sign here to continue. But is it the natural thing when they get to the back page and they've done all their analysis and they've checked it's got it, for them to be going, right, okay, let's go, let's do it. Yeah, so perhaps a little bit of an instruction at the back as to how they will become a client moving forward from there. So next steps, we'll send you you send us a purchase order number. Right. Next step, you send us a document to sign, or sign the, whatever it might be. Yeah.
So I'm just in the process of hopefully, if you're out there, James, hopefully, signing a new client, and the process I go through is I send them over a breakdown of what we discussed as they said it. I say, this is our proposal. This is how much it's going to cost. Click this link to acknowledge that you want to take it to the next step.
That's right. So invoicing systems now have really helped a lot with that. It gives you the green button to proceed. It gives you a button usually to ask any clarification questions, and usually a button to decline. But so that makes it easier. And knowing that these systems exist should prompt you to review how you're submitting your proposals. Yeah, the content of them.
Right.
So that is the sort of the overall structure. Other elements that are appropriate to think about in layout, I think, are how they presented, the look and the feel. If you present to somebody a document that looks like, I don't know, a water bill to somebody in a creative industry, that might not chime so well. If you send somebody a beautiful document that's all bound and thick and loads of detail in there to somebody who works perhaps in a more trades environment, then again, it's not necessarily going to fit. So we want to try and use that document not for our branding purposes, although branding, people will say, is always important. Branding is really about building awareness, right? We're already through the door. We don't need to spatter this document with tons and tons of treacle stuff, bright yellow, black, goth stuff, right? That's not an appropriate place for it. I want it to feel like the sort of document that they themselves own. So whenever I'm starting to create one of these documents, whether it's an online document or something I'm going to print and bind and deliver, I'm straight onto their website. I want to look at their look and feel. I want to see what sorts of fonts they're using. I want to be able to understand the way it's presented. In the old days, I used to look at physical documents. I'd send off their annual reports so I could see how they are presenting themselves. Bearing in mind that people that work in companies where they have a brand, you know, where they have a website, where they have lots of their own content, they're going to be submersed in this thing, right? So any document that they receive that looks and feels like it is going to make it way easier for them to relate to. Yeah, they will remove a lot of barriers. You know, I never forget years ago turning up to a sales meeting for, it was a mobile phone, one of the big mobile phone companies. And, you know, we all went all suited and booted and they were all in their smart casual. You know, they told us, you know, it felt like there's a culture clash between the companies. It felt like, can we really do business with them? Not because specifically, well, they're all wearing suits and we're all in smart casual, but I don't know, it just sets off a little bit of a vibe. We want to try and make connecting with people far easier. And, you know, connecting with people is obviously my core competence.
Just before we wrap up, we've had a comment, not about what we're talking about, funny enough, but I just want to address it. Spencer, thank you for your message. There should be subtitles already, closed captioning already happening. If it's not, thank you for informing me. I'll make sure it is. On pretty much all the others that have been there, we do want to look after our accessibility requirement audience. Anybody who's requiring accessibility, we do want to take care of you as well. But David, would you like to summarize our position on today's topic?
Yeah, the proposal is not just a throwaway document. You know, invest some time, effort, you know, put some of yourself into it. If it's worth winning, do it properly. Okay, so invest in the time. Structure it in the same way that you would structure it as the sales methodology itself. Yeah, the sales conversation. Structure it in that way. Don't launch into, here's how wonderful we are, background to our company, here's an about us, here's who we are, here are wonderful, here's the team, you know, here's our prowess, our awards and all of that. Don't start it with that. That's for the appendix. Yeah, that's for a tick box. If they've asked, please, can you tell us about your credentials that mean you're qualified to deliver this stuff? Yeah, right. That's where you put that. You're going to be leading, even titling your proposal with the things that came out of their mouth related to the problem they're trying to solve. Okay, so structure it. And the second point, we didn't speak as much about it, but is to make the appearance look and feel something that they are used to. Yeah, perhaps use their branding. Use their type of words, use their language, their sorts of images, yeah, because then it will be much easier for them to be able to accommodate. And the final part is know that this is the beginnings of a contract and treat it as such so that they know where to go next. Proceed with the purchase.
Wow. Well, I think if you don't find that useful, then I suggest you rewind it. You can watch this back on catch up later on. If subtitles didn't appear now, they will appear later. Also, this goes out onto my YouTube channel. We are going to put together a special sales meltdown channel. And I'm going to put all the old ones up there, all of which should have subtitles on. So for those of you who can't understand necessarily because they have accessibility requirements, please watch it there. Until next week, thank you very much, David, for giving us pearls of wisdom there. Please do check in for the next sensational session of Sales Meltdown. Get the S's going there. Until then, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and let's make some wonderful sales. Take care all. Bye-bye now.
Ciao, ciao.